I read a story recently in the New York Times about the impact of federal changes to SNAP on folks living in Arizona, and I think it's a really frightening look into what might happen in the rest of the country. In the story, we are following several families who are dealing with the impact of the loss of benefits, including a 65-year-old cancer survivor who is raising her 3 grandsons, who had her $700 a month in benefits cut, all because she submitted a wrong income statement and state delays didn't give her time to fix it. And all of this is contextualized by data from the Washington Post that shows that more than 4 million people lost their benefits between July of 2025 and March of this year. And all of this is happening because of last year's One Big Beautiful Bill, which forced states to tighten eligibility, do more screening, and cut caseworkers. And so then as a result, Arizona has seen some of the most dramatic decreases in SNAP usage across the country. And it's important to name that all of this violence is being done in an effort to advance the larger conservative project that seeks to cut the administrative state to the bone and reduce the role of government in our lives, such that all of our services can be transferred over to the private sector where there is an opportunity for profit. And in the case of SNAP, it's being done by both cutting the program administration to the bone while simultaneously imposing really harsh restrictions and requirements that make it difficult for people to access the help that they need. And so then it becomes a vicious cycle. The government cuts the program administration while making the rules more complex. And so then when errors occur, those errors then get used as the basis for further cuts. And this story is just another reminder that all of the suffering we see in our society is entirely manufactured, because both this administration and previous ones have cut social safety net benefits simply because it benefits the privileged and the wealthy. I think it's so important to actually name these SNAP cuts as a form of violence, because doing so helps us to start to dismantle the system that they've created.
Okay, so I just want to take a quick second to talk about societal violence. So when you think about violence, you usually think about it as like another person like walking down the street, or like maybe like a robber in the night or something like that. And obviously those are terrible, but those are a lot more random. Like one individual person can choose to act in a crazy way. But what is genuinely more scary is the rules and regulations we allow the people in power to have that end the lives of us normal people. And just to kind of demonstrate this, I'll use the state that I live in right now, Arizona, right? SNAP benefits, or EBT, is basically government mandated dollars to allow low income people to be able to afford to eat, right? So it stands to reason that if people weren't getting access to these SNAP benefits, they might not be able to eat, or in other words, they might starve, including their children. Since this time last year, over 500,000 people have been kicked off of the SNAP rolls, right? And this is because of the actions of Republicans in Congress, including people that represent the state of Arizona. And those people are David Schweikart, Juan Ciscomani, Andy Biggs, Eli Crane, Abe Hamida. So the direct actions of those individuals will cause people to go hungry, right? And Arizona should be among the highest affected by this, right? Because the next biggest state is Florida, and they just got a cut of 17%. And local governments within the state are trying to do their best, right? By like doing things like offering vouchers to families for a couple $100s, but that's not going to replace a long-standing program to make sure that they're getting their proper nutrition. And check it out. You might be thinking, oh, so what, they're poor, get a job. But a lot of these people have jobs that aren't paying them enough. How is that legal? Answer me that. But also, again, it's like their children are the ones to suffer a lot of the time, because if you can't afford food for yourself, it's probably mean that you can't afford food for the people that need you to provide for them. And I just don't see how punishing those kids is justified. Call me some psycho radical, but I don't think that you should have to pay to survive. I don't think that there should be a monetary cost associated with that. The government should be funding food programs. In fact, I think they could be funding way more.
Something is happening in Arizona, and it's concerning. Thousands of people are losing their food stamps, benefits, and before you jump into the comments saying they just need to get a job, take a look around and see what's happening in today's economy. Rising grocery prices, layoffs, and financial struggles are affecting families across the country. Arizona may be the first warning sign of bigger changes ahead.
Let me get this straight. Arizona had 400,000 people cut off the SNAP benefit, the food SNAP benefit. 400,000 people. They're going to say that there's fraud and go get a job or whatever else. But I want to remind you people that actually voted for this with the big, beautiful bill, and Our military families, a lot of them are on food stamps. Them are disabled people, veterans. What are we doing here? What are we doing, people? Y'all voted this big, beautiful bill and then cut off all these people on their SNAP benefits. So, for instance, so now my question is, now that we got this shit show going on over in the Middle East, what are we going to do about these people who are solely dependent on SNAP benefits to buy their food? Just let's talk about our military people that are deployed, gone, fixing to be, whatever. What are they supposed to do? Yo, Arizona is not an exception. It's a preview of what's going to end up happening with all the states. That's what's going to end up happening. Let that sink in. 400,000 people lost SNAP benefits in Arizona. Okay.
This is what food insecurity can look like in the United States, the largest economy in the world. A long line, 3 lanes wide, wrapped around St. Mary's Food Bank in Phoenix, Arizona. In the past year, nearly 500,000 people lost SNAP benefits in the state, the steepest decline in enrollment in the country. This comes after the One Big Beautiful Bill Act restricted who in the U.S. qualifies for food stamps. Add to that inflation and higher gas prices, and now more Arizonans are relying on food banks and food pantries as their main source of food, like Miriam Flores, a mom of 7 in Phoenix.
I stopped eating myself so I could feed my children or save food for someone who didn't have enough.
Flores said she comes to the Society of St. Vincent de Paul's family dining room nearly every day for food.
Yes, it's hard. There are nights of crying, nights of not sleeping,
and
I lose sleep at 2 a.m. doing the math, deciding what to pay for and what to put off until later.
Reuters couldn't independently establish Flores' benefit status. The White House said that, quote, President Trump is strengthening SNAP by ensuring these programs are sustainable for future generations, adding that his mandate is to, quote, eliminate runaway spending across the federal government. The USDA told Reuters that enrollment in food stamp benefits is down nationwide, and they say that's due to several factors, including work requirement reforms and initiatives to expand access to employment services, education, and case management. Cindy Bernardo, who runs the family dining room at St. Vincent de Paul, told me she's seeing a lot of families struggle.
Because the problem is, not only did they lose their SNAP benefits, but they also don't have enough money to get gas to get here, to get the food that we have. So it's like a double whammy for them.
It's pretty bad. There really isn't much in there.
Lee Rosen used to get about $260 a month in food assistance. Earlier this year, the 69-year-old Phoenix resident started getting nothing. And he's not the only one.
Nearly 460,000 people in Arizona have been kicked off the federal food assistance program since Congress passed new restrictions last summer. That is a 50% drop, and the problem could get a lot worse.
That's because H.R. 1, also known as the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, introduced strict work requirements for SNAP eligibility and shifted program costs onto state budgets.
H.R. 1 included the deepest SNAP cuts in history. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that the changes in that law will cut SNAP by about $187 billion over the next decade.
For Rosen, that means he can't afford to buy items like meat. For others, it means turning to food pantries, which are already struggling to keep up with increased demand.
Since July of last year when the bill was passed, we've seen a consistent growth of about 10 to 12% month over month, and roughly about 20 to 30% increase of people coming in and needing food from the food pantries and food banks that we serve. About 20 to 30% increase from those individuals year over year.
Once a person gets kicked off the SNAP program, it's often hard to get back on. The Arizona Department of Economic Security canceled Rosen's SNAP benefits when he didn't report $47 that he made working his first and only shift at a discount retail store. When he tried calling the state to get his benefits back, he couldn't get through. Federal funding cuts forced DES to slash hundreds of jobs, and now it can't keep up with the backlog of SNAP applications and appeals.
We're concerned that Arizona may be the kind of the canary in the coal mine, and that we might see some growing and much steeper declines in SNAP participation in other states as some of those changes in policy and procedure play out.
I called DES myself to ask about Rosen's case, and a few hours later, he got a call back. All his benefits were reinstated.
Nearly half of Arizona families receiving SNAP benefits have disappeared from the system in less than a year. And no, that does not mean hunger suddenly disappeared in Arizona. It means people are getting cut off while the state struggles with a massive backlog and new federal restrictions. Arizona is experiencing the largest drop in SNAP participation in the entire country, and thousands of families are now scrambling just to feed their children because apparently surviving inflation now also requires surviving government paperwork roulette. So according to recent reporting, Arizona went from more than 455,000 families receiving these benefits last July to just over 235,000 families in April of this year. That's nearly a 50% drop. We are talking about parents skipping meals, children losing food access, and families sitting in bureaucratic limbo for months while trying to survive rising grocery prices, rent increases, and an unstable job market. One Arizona mother told reporters she's been submitting paperwork since August and still cannot get benefits restored while caring for children with a life-threatening blood disorder. The Arizona Department of Economic Security says part of the problem is a massive backlog tied to new federal SNAP requirements, outdated technology, staffing issues, and stricter eligibility rules implemented after changes from the Trump administration last year. So those changes expanded work requirements and removed exemptions that previously protected some residents in Maricopa County. Certain immigrant groups also lost eligibility entirely under the new federal changes. And what makes this especially concerning is that advocacy groups and policy researchers say the drop is far too large to simply be explained by people no longer needing help. Arizona's unemployment rate has not suddenly collapsed. Grocery prices are still high. Families are still struggling. Researchers with the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities warned that Arizona's decline far exceeds national trends and may reflect eligible families losing access because of paperwork barriers, processing delays, and administrative failures. And that matters because food insecurity is not just a hunger issue, it's a healthcare issue too. Children experiencing food insecurity face worse long-term health outcomes, chronic stress, developmental issues, and higher rates of hospitalization. Families under this level of financial strain often delay medical care, and then they ration their meds or end up in crisis systems that cost far more than prevention ever would. If nearly half your recipients disappear while demand remains high, that is not evidence the crisis solved. It's evidence that the system is becoming harder to survive.
This isn't about judging people. It's about paying attention to what's happening. Some experts say Arizona could be an early look at what other states may face as SNAP changes continue to roll out. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more real conversations about what's happening in America. Take care, and thanks for watching.